everyone, and thank you so much for joining Minority Vet's Black History Month event, Black Joy as a Means of Resistance. I'm repping my Radiate Black Joy shirt. Hopefully you guys are feeling the spirit as well. So we've curated this event today to bring our community, allies, and supporters together in order to create a space of healing, joy, and peace. That said, we have also brought you this event to remind you that Black people, including and especially veterans, are not a monolith, and that Black history is more than just slavery. Now, we've chosen to honor our past while simultaneously appreciating our present and looking forward to the future. To do that, we've collaborated with some community leaders and amazing veteran speakers to bring light to a variety of topics, ranging from alternative healing modalities to how successfully submit disability claims to get to a 100%. So let's jump right on in. Now, in 1926, Carter G. Woodson and other prominent members of the African-American community celebrated the inauguration of Negro History Week, which grew into what we recognize today as Black History Month. President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976, calling upon the public to, quote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history, end quote. Since then, each president has endorsed a specific theme, and this year's theme is Black health and wellness. Now, when one thinks of the overlap of health and wellness, joy is often found at the intersection. However, joy as a form of resistance has only recently been offered as an alternative to the dichotomy of the two forms of thought made popular during the civil rights movement, nonviolence or violence. Poet Toi Delacroix first penned the concept in 2008, summarizing the revolution of Black feminism. Since then, authors like Austin Channing Brown have added to the dialogue of Black joy, noting that we aren't just pursuing racial justice when we're organizing or voting or protesting or speech making or volunteering or working. We're also pursuing justice when we indulge in joy. Now, my own personal story of Black joy arose during Juneteenth of last year. A very close friend of mine, Melissa Margain, who coincidentally is also moderating session B of this panel, was kind enough to agree to attend a Juneteenth festival with me, which included a march, vendors, performances, and all kinds of blackness. However, one particular moment will be etched in my mind and spirit forever. At the beginning of the performances, a quintet stood to sing James Weldon Johnson's Lift Every Voice and Sing. Now, instead of the quintet taking the lead, though, the entire crowd, Black people of all ages, backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, and some sketchy singing capabilities, joined together for the most majestic sing-along I had ever seen. And I'm sure that my story of joy is just one of many that we'll hear today. Now, without further ado, I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Felisa Gaffney, who will be speaking on Blackness and mental health. Now, the stigmas surrounding mental health in the Black community are pervasive. Many of us are taught that talking about it is taboo. Now, compounded with the suffer in silence mentality of the armed forces, many Black soldiers are stuck in a cycle of unaddressed emotional trauma. This cycle continues when they complete their service, as Black vets are exponentially less likely to receive the disability ratings they deserve, and therefore are less likely to receive that proper care. Now, Dr. Gaffney is an Air Force veteran with over 25 years of federal service. During her active duty service, she deployed to Kuwait twice. Dr. Gaffney's first deployment was in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the second in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. During her service, she completed her master's degree in marriage, family, and child therapy. She returned to graduate school and completed her doctoral degree in clinical psychology in 2014. She's worked in a number of positions where she was able to continue her learning to include the Department of Veterans Affairs, a state correctional facility, numerous nonprofits, and that allowed her to gain experience working with individuals ranging from diagnoses of severe and persistent mental illness, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. She currently has a group private practice in California where she continues to serve the veteran community. And she's also an adjunct professor at Alliant International University at the California School of Professional Psychology. Wow, Dr. Gaffney, that is quite an extensive bio. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I really want to jump right into the questions. Now, what personal experiences have you had that speak directly to the issue of disparities in mental health in the Black vet community?
So personally, what I see is a lack of information provided to us on how to make the transition. I think when we enlist or commission into the military, they are great at taking us and making us all one, where we speak with one mouth and all those things. However, on the other side of that, you don't have the same level of support. They show you the gate and you're left to figure it out without knowing what's out there and available to you as a veteran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can completely relate to that. I recently separated medical disability June of last year, and I was lost in the sauce when it came to leaving the military. So I can totally relate. And you've been the owner of your own psychotherapy practice for almost 4 years now. And before that, you work at a veteran center. How is working with veterans different from working with civilians?
So I still have the privilege and the pleasure of serving what I feel is my community, the veteran community. Mm-hmm. I see that civilians don't think of trauma in the same way that we do. They most likely think of it in a way that says it's just about war or the scars left from war, when there are many different ways that someone can be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. Oftentimes they don't think it rises to the level that PTSD from war rises to, and the symptoms are still the same. The picture still looks the same, whether you had a deployment that left you, feeling mentally challenged, or if you actually had someone rob you in the street and shoot you with a gun. The symptoms are the same.
Yeah. I also understand that a lot of veterans struggle with the fact that their mental disabilities are often seen as invisible. And I think that a lot of civilians might necessarily feel that if you have a disability, it should be visible on you. Would you agree?
I do agree with that. I think that whole culture of not saying where it hurts has done a lot of damage in us getting the benefits that we so richly deserve because some sacrifice saw. I think that when comp and pension exams are done, and it's done by someone who doesn't resemble us or who have not had the same experiences we have had, they minimize or marginalize and make our suffering less. And so the goal is to be able to help people to actually accurately describe what their experiences are.
Mm-hmm. And you spoke to actually having people examine us that can't identify with us or that don't look like us. I'd like to speak on that a little bit more. Do you think that there is a lack of representation for vets looking to seek disability and compensation?
I do. There's approximately 1% of African Americans as clinical psychologists, and the VA requires that you are a psychologist in order to complete a comp and pen, minimally a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a nurse practitioner, but definitely someone with a higher level of education.
Oh my goodness, wow, 1%, that's crazy. So what are some of the common issues you find among Black veteran patients?
Just disrespect, not valuing our bodies, from taking our blood to understanding that someone has been or has experienced military sexual trauma and having the VA police corner that person and getting a phone call that says your client's in the waiting room screaming at the top of their lungs, and having to find support at the VA to have everybody disperse.
Right. Oh my goodness. Have you experienced that personally? Like someone just, screaming for help? That's crazy.
I have, and I've had to be on 2 phone lines, one calling someone that I know is an ally, and the other one trying to calm the individual down.
Oh my goodness. Well, allow me to just express my gratitude for being in this particular relate to that, because advocating for yourself, especially as a service member where you're told that you don't have a voice and you have to fall in line, is very difficult. So for everyone out there in the audience, as Dr. Gaffney said, please make sure you advocate for yourself. or reach out to one of your veteran service organizations, minority vets, and we can certainly put you in contact with someone that can advocate for you. So, all right, Dr. Gaffney, please let the people know how they can contact you and get in touch with you.
Via email, it's Dr. as in Dr. Felisa Gaffney at hopesprings-psychotherapy.org, and I can be reached at 925-303-6058.
All right, moving forward. So next we have our men's healing circle. So Black men are often seen as pillars of the community, from being the catalyst of change in the fight for civil rights to breaking barriers within the ranks. Black men are often left with no choice other than being strong. Today, we're going to talk about the effects of that stereotype on the Black male psyche, how we can combat it, and how we can come together as a community to make Black men's healing a priority. And today we have Sherman Gillums with us. So Sherman served in the U.S. Marines for 12 years between 1990 and 2002. He received an honorable discharge at the rank of Chief Warrant Officer 2 after suffering a career-ending injury. His awards include 2 Navy and Marine Commendation Medals, Navy Marine Achievement Medal, Drill Instructor Ribbon, and the Global War on Terror Service Medal. After his discharge, Sherman began a career in veteran advocacy, which included working as an appellate representative at the Board of Veterans' Appeals in Washington, D.C., serving as Executive Director for Paralyzed Veterans of America and Chief Strategy and Advocacy Officer of AMVETS, and is currently the Chief Strategy and Impact Officer for National Alliance on Mental Illness. He has testified before Congress as an expert witness and has appeared on national media as an influential leader in veteran advocacy. Everyone, please welcome Sherman Gillums to the stage. How's it going, Sherman?
Hi, Crystal. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I mean, I am an Army person, but I have to say your Marine shirt is kind of fly. So I'll give it to you today. So we're going to jump right into these questions. So have you personally experienced the weight of the strong Black man stigma, particularly while serving?
Oh, my goodness. I think the best way to talk about men and healing within the context of the Black experience is to deconstruct what those concepts mean. And I'll give you an example. This is actually, I was in service, but I had been injured. I was recovering from injuries at the San Diego VA, and my Uncle Bill, a career Marine who served in the Marine Corps, would come and visit me often. And I remember when he bent over, he kissed me on my forehead before leaving. And what made it memorable is I felt that for the first time. I mean, I didn't grow up in an environment where affection was a big thing. And so when I came into the military, I carried that sort of stigma with me that you weren't affectionate. And so when I was injured and I needed that return to healing and felt that affection, it made me sort of remiss because I didn't have that sense. And I didn't know what kind of leader that made me when I was serving, not having that ability to see past, the exterior. But I learned some tough lessons, mainly after I come to realize what I needed to heal. And a whole lot of people needed the same thing. And I wasn't equipped then, but I hope to be equipped now to provide that example for Black men and especially young Black men who need to see those examples.
I mean, that's awesome that you are and have taken the time to really reflect and question what that meant about you as a leader, because a lot of leaders don't. A lot of them don't check in with themselves and see, well, what could I be doing better? So thank you for that. And you're currently in a leadership role at the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Tell us a little bit more about this work and what it means for the Black vet community.
Well, the one thing we know is mental illness doesn't care who you are. It doesn't discriminate. It respects no demographic boundaries. And so when we talk to people about Black mental health, the question is, well, how does this apply to me? Well, we're part of a society. A lot of them are people you work with. They're people you're in communities with. You have to care about your fellow human being. And so what NAMI does is we try to take what we think we do well and examine why are so many people still not either coming to NAMI for what we have to offer, or you see the homogeneity that tells you some people, it's a place for some people and not for others. So we've been taking deliberate efforts to reach out to historically Black colleges and universities, reaching out to churches, professionals, Black professionals. I mean, it's not a money thing. It's not socioeconomic. People listen to who they trust, and we saw this with COVID and vaccinations. If you don't trust people, it doesn't matter how much money you have or what your background is. You're going to listen to people you trust. And so my job is to build bridges to communities that we typically don't reach and have an acute need, as we're seeing in a lot of the schools and with young people where they happen to be youth of color.
Right. Now, I can say, as someone that grew up in the church and also went to an HBCU, I think that those particular communities could benefit from having these open and honest conversations on mental health, because it's seen as a stigma. You don't talk about, oh my gosh, like I'm having a bad day, or just pray about it, let God handle it. And be that as it may, people, get through depression and mental illness through their religion or their connection with spirituality. I think also having the conversation and letting people feel safe enough to really talk about these things is the start. So I think that's awesome that you're particularly in those spaces.
And I'll mention really quickly that faith leaders are increasingly finding that, asking for help in a clinical space is what God intended. It wasn't meant for everybody to go to church and be healed of broken bones, of cancer, of any number of infirmities. And more of them are accepting that mental health and mental illness is not about the spirit. It's not, God gave us medicine, right? That's also ordained by God. So we're seeing, I'm encouraged by the number of faith leaders I see coming into this community of a holistic healing that involves faith and spirit, but it also involves referring people in your church to a doctor when they need it.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate you adding that for us, Sherman. And in terms of stigma, while we're on that topic, so what contributing factors perpetuate the stigma of Black mental health, and what can non-Black and non-male folks do to support?
Well, I could talk all day about the stigmas. I think that
how much time you got?
Well, the APA a year and a half ago apologized. American Psychiatric Association apologized for its contribution to the legacy of stigma. We all heard about Tuskegee. There's litany of examples of where Black people weren't seen as human. There were always humans involved, but they weren't always considered such. And so we had to recover. We have to reconcile that history, as well as, while we're in this living history, find ways to learn from that. And I think a lot of the things we see happening with Black men in particular are reflections of previous generations that handed down those survival skills. You don't cry, right? Yes. You don't do these things because, at one point it meant about showing weakness behind the lash. We're not getting lashed today, arguably, but some people still see the police activity involving Black men and all the things that happened as an extension of that. And while they may be metaphorically related, some people still live with the momentum of memory handed down through generations, their grandfathers and their great grandfathers. And the people that were a part of that, the moms and the aunts and supporters, they're a part of that ecosystem we're in. So I think all of us having a sense of where we've been and moving toward healing together is the only way we're going to have it happen, and allowing crying to be a thing and have dignity. So that's a good place to start.
Definitely. I have to share a little bit of a personal story. I was on the prep call for this event, and I saw you with your son, and you can just see how you were with him, and you were very gentle and very sweet, and you allowed him to come in the camera. And I was like, man, that's awesome to see a Black father and his son really having a bond like that. So thank you for letting us see that, by the way. I just had to share with the audience. Mm-hmm. So how would you encourage Black male vets to address and be open about their healing and mental health, other than crying?
Well, the first thing is accept that you're allowed to be a human being, and being right. Black in a man does not erase human. Right. All the things that people did in the past, when people had to escape enslavement or fight Jim Crow and civil rights, they did those things because they didn't have the resources. Right. That worked for them back then out of necessity. But all that sacrifice meant that we would get to a place where today, if you still feel under threat, there are things you can do differently so that we evolve and move toward our humanness, not this caricature of individuals we become. So I think Black men have a responsibility, like our forebears did, show people like my son, this is how you get through it. You're not gonna fix anything by holding it inside and being angry. You have to express it in a way that makes you human. And I think if we're open to getting help, asking for help, seek out mentors that are okay with talking about what hurt feels like and how that's expressed. And I see more of that. I'm encouraged by the fact that I see more Black men, who are opening their arms to the idea that we're humans first, and we can fix the other stuff, but we got to deal with our humanness before we figure anything else out. So I'm really encouraged to see that.
Awesome. And you've said a word that really stuck with me, and that's evolution. And I definitely think that's going to be the foundation of the Black mental health for all of us, and not just the male vets, but thank you for that. So last question, gonna wrap this up for you. So while most people think calling Black men strong is a compliment, it can actually bolster the stereotype that leaders in the community, like you, are working to change. So what are some other words or phrases we can use to simultaneously break this stigma, but also encourage our Black men?
I wouldn't change the word strong. I would change what it means. Being strong means being in touch with who you are. It takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to allow for something different, like my uncle's kiss on my forehead, to embrace, what feels good. And then in turn, for my son, kiss him on the forehead. That's being strong. I think that's when you do things that give strength and enhance the DNA of future generations. That's the ultimate show of strength. And the people that weren't able to do that because they didn't have access to the things we have, they were strong in the way they needed to be to get us here. But strong it evolves. It's like us. We evolve with that term. But I would say strength and the way it's expressed is what changes, not what the word itself. So I would still consider strong synonymous with being a man, woman, Black, white human being. But strong means a lot of things. But we need to make it strong in a way that heals, not hurts us. Sometimes being strong can be the thing that kills you. And I think that's been the case too long, when people deny themselves the ability to love themselves and seek out care under disguise of being strong.
Yeah. I mean, I can certainly relate to that. I think that especially within the past couple of years, with all of the police activity and all of this stuff really being at the forefront of our political landscape, we just have to kind of suck it up, especially if you're still serving, you're still a service member. You're not really allowed to break down and have that space. So it's up to leaders like you and everyone that is in your organization and minority vets and all of our VSOs to really get with those veterans and make sure that they have a safe space. So thank you. This is definitely part of the process of getting everyone on the right track of mental health. So thank you so much for sharing, Sherman. So my favorite part, please let the people know how they can get in touch with you and your organization.
You can go to www.nami.org, and I'm all over the place there. If you want to hook up with me on LinkedIn, S. Gillums, on Facebook and Twitter, I'm easy to find. I'm not hiding from anybody. So you type my name and put me in one of the social media channels. I'll pop up, I'll connect with you, and we can talk about anything and connect to care any way you need it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sherman. And I'm sure I'm going to be hitting you up. I will take you up on that. So if I'm texting you like, Sherman, I need to talk, I expect you to be there.
I'm right here.
All right. Thanks, Sherman. All right. So moving forward right through this thing. So our next speaker is going to be Lornette Vestal, excuse me. So for decades, Black veterans had little to no reprieve from the mental health challenges they faced in a post-war, racially divided America. Upon returning from war, many service members turned to substance abuse as a means to combat PTSD, depression, grief, and countless other mental issues. However, alternative modalities are surfacing as healthier and more holistic ways to approach the healing journey. In this session, we're going to talk about what an alternative modality is, what options are available, and how it can have a positive impact on our community at large. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Lornette up. How you doing, Lornette? I love that shirt, man.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for the introduction.
Actually,
Crystal.
Just before we get into your session, please forgive me for the interruption. For those who are viewing this, my name is Melissa Margain. I'm the Seattle Program Director here at Minority Veterans of America. And I just wanted to take a quick second to acknowledge the brief interruption we had during our previous speakers. I want to apologize to those who are viewing who may have been affected by some of the language and some of the antics that took place during that interruption. I want to reaffirm that the work we are doing today during this program is exactly what needs to be done. I wanted to make sure that I addressed it, not only as a leader, as a Black woman, as someone who unfortunately deals with this degree of rhetoric, and just let you all know that I will continue my commitment as a leader of this organization to make sure that this remains a safe space. Where we all can feel heard and seen and talk about, just the wonderful work that we're doing in our communities and around others. So again, I would just wanted to pop in, do a quick check-in with everybody who is viewing this, and to just make sure that we are okay to continue. I don't mean to put Dr. Gaffney on the spot, but I will ask if she will turn her camera back on just really quickly, and maybe speak to some ways that we can work through what happened, if that was something that was triggering. But I felt it was absolutely necessary to acknowledge what took place, and we are working on the back end to make sure that that does not happen again during this program. So forgive me, Lornette and Crystal, for jumping in right before your session, but I think it's extremely important.
So unfortunately, in this day and age, that is what I see a lot of with the veterans I serve and the population I serve at large. So I think that things like what we're doing right now is having that conversation and acknowledging that it still exists and that you're not crazy for feeling what you feel. It's important to have a space where we can do that. And so let's just keep talking about it and processing it and saying that it's not okay for someone to do that type of stuff.
Perfect. Thank you so much again. And I will go ahead and hop back off so we can continue with this absolutely amazing session. And thank you all again.
Thank you so much for that, Melissa. As you said, this is exactly why that we are doing this type of work. These are the reasons why we have these conversations and these discussions, and we will continue to move forward and make this a safe space for everyone that have unfortunately had to experience that. So, all right, so sorry about that, Lornette, but moving back to you, Lornette was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. He joined the United States Navy at the age of 17. He served 4 years honorably and was deployed during Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. He's traveled to various countries, including Ecuador, Mexico, Brazil, and Estonia. He has a BA in psychology from Northern Illinois University and a master's degree in social service administration from the University of Chicago. He spent several years working in education and social work at Chicago Public Schools and nonprofit organizations through the city of Chicago. So everyone, please welcome Lornette Vestal. All right, so after all that, let's bring it back. How are you doing, Lornette?
I'm doing good, and I want to thank the words of Dr. Gaffney, and thank you to Melissa for addressing that. And I think the most important thing to learn and to know is that we must be doing something right to attract the attention of, for lack of better words, haters. So I'll be professional. So that's a good thing, and hopefully our conversation could be about ways to kind of get away from those stresses and challenges that we all face as Black people in this day and age, in the gaslighting and all those things that also contribute to harming our mental health. So the first two speakers are very wonderful about kind of that the need to take care of your mental health is just as important as take care of your physical health. And it's very, very important that we continue to do that. And it's important to me personally because being the University of Chicago Social Service Administration degree is just a fancy way for University of Chicago to say social worker. So I'm a social worker, just for layman's terms. So mental health and kind of not only impacting the community, the help for the community, but individuals is very important.
Totally agree, for sure. So moving right into our topic today. So in your own words, what constitutes an alternative modality?
Yeah, so I say for our alternative modality, my current position, I work for the Sierra Club, and it's the oldest and largest environmental organization in the country. My role is a senior campaign representative for the Military Outdoors program. And what we simply do is take veterans on outdoor adventures to connect with each other in nature. So our goal of our program is to ensure that nature can be seen as an alternative to what Dr. Gaffney talked about, what Sherman talked about, talk therapy, medicine. These are also important, and nature could be a complement to those. So not to, let's say, you'll go on a hike or you go fishing and you're better and you're all good, but it could be a complement. And also another thing, and what I've been trying to change in this space, in the outdoor space over the last 6 years that I've been here, is this kind of misnomer, especially the outdoor space is not very diverse, depending on what part of the country you're in. But when you really get into the thick of things, it's very white, very, young, fit people who are, getting outdoors, and that's the face, these outdoor athletes and things of that nature. So think about the Winter Olympics or something. But, and they're like, well, why don't the Black people get outdoors? Well, we have to deal with perhaps being in communities and spaces where we're the only Black person. We have to think about our safety. We have to think about all these things. So those are very important. So what I've been trying to change is that you can get outdoors right in your own community, right in your own backyard. Living in Atlanta these days, the weather allows me to get out in Georgia, but even in my hometown of Chicago, one of the largest park districts in the country of any major city, the lakefront of Chicago is a green space. So in the warm months that are like 3 months up there, you can get outdoors, and that's kind of what we hope to do, because there are actual studied research about the impact of just getting out in nature for just 10 minutes and how that impacts you on your well-being. So that's kind of an alternative modality, in my opinion, nature therapy.
Awesome. Well, I can certainly agree with there not being a lot of Black or brown faces in a lot of the marketing for outdoor events like camping or hiking or all those things. When I was in Seattle, Washington, I was based at JBLM. There was actually a group called Black People Hike. And I was like, I don't really understand why this group exists. You would think that that's just a given, but considering that those folks were looking for that sense of community to hike with people that looked like them, it made perfect sense. So I completely can attest to all of that. So our next question, why is it important for the Black vet community to find alternative ways of coping and healing?
Just like I said earlier, kind of like the talk therapy, medicine, and all these traditional ways of kind of getting your mental health on track is very important, and it's a very important in our community that we're talking about it. Obviously, I think you talked a little bit earlier about kind of healing through faith. All these traditional ways are very important, but alternative ways, people are already doing this. Kind of folks who get out and play a game, a big pickup basketball, to kind of relieving stress, just to kind of a walk around your community. We have folks just going to your local park. It's simple things like that. But even joining organizations like Outdoor Afro, Black Girls Run, these organizations bring like-minded folks together from the same our community, and I think Black veterans, because when we think of veterans, we kind of think of, I always joke around, it's like a white guy with a beard when folks think of veterans, but the veterans are Black men, Black women, non-binary, all individuals, everybody, every demographic you can think of has served in the military, whether it's for 4 years like myself, or 20, 30 years, or they reached the level of Colin Powell, which is like a few of us. Good for him. I wasn't gonna do that many years in the military, but more power to Colin. I think that's very important. I think it's important because we can do this. It doesn't cost much money to get outside. You can go to your park, you can get a group of friends, you can go to local trails and bring folks together. And what I like about our military outdoors programs is we connect veterans to the larger Sierra Club to run outings, and we train the veterans themselves to be outdoor leaders, to take other veterans out. So you can do any type of group. If you just want to have all women veterans, Black women veterans, you can do that. If it's just all Black male veterans, you can do that. Whatever the leader wants. Or if you want to bring families together and have a veteran military families day, and you go to the park and the kids run around and play while you folks socialize and have a nice day outside. Depending on where you're at in the country, it's February, so it might not be realistic to get outdoors, but on the colder northern states, You can always go skiing or snowshoeing or sledding. I did a lot of sledding growing up in Chicago. I did not learn how to ice skate, so you can probably do that. I learned how to skate as a roller rink, so Black folks do that. All I was a teenager, I tried to do that as an adult with my wife back in the day, and I was terrible. So if you don't use it, you lose it. But getting outdoors is really, really simple. You don't have to go to REI and buy the most expensive gear. If you got a bike, if you got a skateboard, if you just got your own 2 feet, even if you have limited mobility, just getting around your block, if you can, that's all you need to do to just get out, get outside, or gardening. So it's all just alternative ways. Outdoors, what I'm trying to do is change the outdoors isn't like extreme sports. It's not whitewater rafting. It can be those things, but it can't just be like going out to garden, sitting in your backyard, going to a picnic. I know growing up in Chicago, folks would go on nice days to the lakefront and have a barbecue. And hey, you're outdoors. You're getting into fresh air. You're right by the lakefront. So you can do that. It can be right in your local, it can be right in your own backyard. So you don't have to go to the Grand Canyon or Mount Everest to get outdoors. You can do it right in your own neighborhood. So that's what I like about it. And I think this is very, and it's important to Black veterans because there are some folks in our community who have a lot of resources, and there's other folks who don't. But the outdoors is for everybody, no matter who you are, how much money you got, where you come from, where you live. All you have to do is just get out your front door, and you're there.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate you touching on the fact that being a part of the outdoors doesn't require a lot of money, because I think that a lot of the societal marketing for outdoorsy stuff has gotten very expensive. Like, you need these hiking boots and you need this nice bag and you need all of these things. And it's like, I've gone hiking literally in old beat up sneakers and a t-shirt, and I've been fine. So thank you so much for bringing up that fact that you don't need all the expensive gear to just get outside. All right,
and I'll
so
be honest with you, Crystal. I just saying, just a caveat for what you said. Target and Walmart has been my go-to place for gear over the last few years. When I got into it, I was doing an REI thing, going to like the biggest expensive sports stores. It was on the company's card, so I didn't care. But it's like that gets expensive.
Spilling all the tea.
Yeah, let's go to Target has stuff, Walmart has stuff. You can get camping gear, you can get all that stuff there. It's a reasonable price if you don't want to spend all that money on the fancy stuff.
Awesome. All right, so last question. I'm going to wrap this up a little bit. So what are some baby steps someone can do to engage in an alternative modality like being outside? Like, we understand with COVID, people are having a little bit more apprehension about getting outside and being around others. So what are some ways someone could ease into it?
Yeah, so well, actually all the research shows the best, safest place to be around people is in the outdoors. So kind of what I said earlier, the first step is just getting outside. So if I just say a walk around your block, you can start off very simple. You don't have to go on a 30-mile hike. You can just take a walk around your block and kind of expand your radius each week as you get more and more comfortable. And if you have a group of friends and you might have a friend who goes fishing, ask them if you want to go fishing. You might have a run group in the morning when you get outside and you go running with them. So whatever is your comfort level and your ability level, find a like-minded group of people. Whether that's something like the Sierra Club Outdoors, but you can go online and there's all awesome types of organizations. Like I told you, Black Girls Run, Outdoor Afro, Latino Outdoors. These are organizations that are getting people of color and Black folks outside. And also, like I said earlier, we are already outside. Growing up as a kid, said the barbecue by the lakefront. That's what we did, and we were outdoors. So it doesn't have to be this faraway thing. It could be what you're comfortable with. So if you like to grill, whether you're a vegan or not, you can just you can go to your backyard or go to your local park and have a nice barbecue and get folks outside and get your kids out and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I will say vegetables like the shish kebabs on the grill. I'm not vegan, but that's always my go-to. Like, perfect, chef's kiss. All right, Lauren. So let the people know how they can get in touch with you and find out more about Sierra Club.
Yeah, so you can check out the Sierra Club Military Outdoors. All you gotta do is go to Sierra Club .org. You can reach out to me. My email is lornette.vestal@sierraclub.org. And you folks can email me and learn more about the Military Outdoors program. You can visit our website. You can email me, and I'll be more happy to follow with folks with more information. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Lornette. And I think I'm about to maybe take a little breeze outside. Sounds good. All right, so next up is one of my favorite parts of the show, the breakout rooms. All folks who've been registered on Zoom will be put into a smaller huddle with one of the speakers that you've heard during session A. So during this time, you'll be able to interact with the speakers on a more personal level. And also, they might have some fun stuff planned for their groups. You never know. After the breakout rooms, we'll have a 5-minute intermission, and then we're right back at it at 4 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see you guys soon.